Welcome back to DUBBZI Bricks for another episode of building the Tantive IV in Lego. And first of all, I have to say a massive thank you for all of the donations. Not in the last video, but in the last several episodes. It really has blown me away by the generosity out there. The Lego community really is the best. And I woke up this morning and was reading the comments on my videos and I was just speechless. First of all, we had a $10 donation from Zach Frickle. I hope I pronounced that correctly. We had a 14 Canadian dollar donation from Blondie7575, a $50 donation from Il Canyon Solitario, again, I hope I pronounced that correctly. And then Safewing Bolt 5672, €240. I mean, wow, it's just unbelievable. And yeah, I can't thank you guys enough. It really does make building this Tantive IV so much easier with those donations. So I really do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I can't thank you guys enough. Yeah, it's amazing. And I have had a couple of other people reach out to me and ask how do they donate to the channel. Obviously, there is the super thanks, or there is alternatively PayPal. I have had payments through PayPal. The advantage with PayPal is obviously there's no fees come out of it, so I received the full amount. So yeah, I don't expect anything from anybody, but it really does help. So thank you so much. And I will leave a link in the video description to my PayPal in case anybody does want to help support the build of the Tantive or Gotham City. So yeah, once again, thank you so much, guys. I really do appreciate it. Now, there were some great comments in the last video, and the majority of them were around this engine section just here. The first one was in regards to the center engines here and also on the bottom, and somebody was commenting that they weren't accurate, that they're not supposed to be higher and that they're supposed to be at a different angle on here. Now, at the very beginning of the build series, or very close to the beginning of the build series, I did state in there that I was getting so many different mixed measurements from the build that I had to just choose a source material to work from and go with it. So it might not be 100% accurate to the movie, but at least it's accurate to that source material, etc. And that is how I've gone about doing this whole section here. So on the diagram, as you'll see on screen now, the center engines are higher at the top and lower on the bottom. They're not in a perfect straight line. However, when you do look at the images from Rogue One, like you see in my intro, they are in a straight line. It won't take me much to amend these two engine mounts in the middle here. All it would need me to do is remove a couple of rows of bricks from the top here and on the back, and then just change the side panels. So it is a very quick fix, and I might be able to get away with using a 4x2 wedge plate as opposed to the 3x2, because that'll be at a slightly different angle and hopefully be at the angle that I need. The only problem is the engine mount here is higher than what it is here. However, once again, this is something that is quite easy for me to change because I haven't actually built 10 of these engines yet in the new style. So all I need to do is just change the actual mounting section just there. So that again would be quite simple for me to do at this stage, or at least I think it would be. So it is something I am considering changing. I do want this vessel, as I've always stated, to be the most accurate possible. And if that means redoing those two bits there and on the bottom, then I'm more than happy to make those amendments. Somebody else was commenting about the engines sagging. I did originally say that I would be putting a plate in here across there which would hold the engines in place, and they were querying how I was going to do that with the engines now being upside down. And if you didn't see the last update, when I put the engines in, it wasn't lining up correctly with the studs here. However, if I put them in upside down, it lined up perfectly. So I'm now building all the engines upside down. And also at the bottom here, I wouldn't have been able to attach it in there anyway. Now, with the engines, to stop them sagging, when I put the panel that goes on the outside here, that's stopping the sagging anyway. So I don't need to worry about attaching it inside the engine mounts. I've got two attachable points on each of the top engines, same on the bottom. On the outer engines here, we've got studs on the side that will be attaching the panels to, because they also have a connecting part. It's just the center one where I would have the issue. But what I'm thinking I could do is have something coming off of here going down to force onto the top of the engine, and then that will stop the center engine from dropping. So I'm 100% confident we've got no trouble with the engines sagging on there. So fingers crossed that will be the case. Now, there were, I think it was like 3 people at the time of recording this intro, asked, am I going to be lighting the engines up? And the answer is yes, I would love to light the engines up. And I can't see any reason why I won't be able to. As you can see here, we've got loads of room through here for me to feed wires, so that's not a problem at all. And what I'm thinking about doing at the moment is putting all the electronics obviously in the back section of the engine, which would be just here, lead the wires through, and then when it comes to actually attaching the wires up, these 2 curved plates probably won't be here, and I'll have the wire come through and then I'll plug it into something on the top of here. And it'll be the same on all 4 of the top engines. On the engine here, it will be on the side somewhere on the greebling. Centre engine, I'll have to come up with a totally different solution, so that one will have its own battery pack. But what I'll try and do is then have it so there's wires all connected inside the actual engine mounts themselves. And then that way it will just be a case of having one power supply for the other 10 engines. So this is something I would need to get done relatively soon, just so that I can, because what I'll be doing is I'll be putting it behind the panels, under tiling and stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of work, but it is something that's going to be very achievable to do. Now, there were a couple of other comments which have come up numerous times, and I can appreciate that some people are new to the channel, so they won't have watched the older content and won't have know the answers to these questions. So what I'm going to do is I will put a fact sheet at the end of this video, and I will do it on all the videos going forward of frequently asked questions that will then help people with knowing the answer to that. The question that came up again was, is this minifig scale? The answer is externally, yes, it is minifig scale, or very, very close to it. Internally, it's not possible to do so, as I don't believe that when the designers or when they made the film, they realised that you wouldn't possibly be able to fit inside the Tantive IV all of the details that you see in there. So yes, it is minifig scale to a certain extent. The other question, why I pronounce the word Tantive IV how I do, and I did cover this in the last update, so I'm not going over it again, but so I will again put that at the end of the video on this fact sheet. I did manage to get to Dublin yesterday to the Lego store to get a load of pieces for the engines, and I thought at the previous one I had bought all the parts I needed, but after I changed the design of this, it meant I needed several thousand more pieces. So luckily, going to Grafton Street and Blanchardstown Lego stores enabled me to get the majority of those parts. So let's show you what we got from the Lego store. So the first Lego store I went to was Blanchardstown, and I picked up 4 boxes, as you can see, which qualified me for yet another GWP of the Pokemon ball. So I really am hoping these white pieces are going to come in handy. And I made a list of everything that I needed, and one thing that they didn't have was the 2x6 plates. And when I was in Grafton Street last Sunday, they didn't have any there either, so I took no chances, and I got loads of the 1x6 plates. Now there's 57 plates to a row here, and I've maximised the packing in the box, as you can see. So we've got a whole load of those just there. I was getting a little bit low on 2x plates, and obviously the colour doesn't matter because it's all going to be covered over. So we've got another 170 odd of those. We needed loads of snot bricks for the engines, so I've got a whole load here. These are the 2 high ones by 1 wide, and again, use the plates just to keep everything as tidy as possible in the box. We need some 2x6 bricks for the engine mounts as well, so we've got a load of those, and the 3x2 plates. Now this is one part that I didn't realise I needed so many of. It was only when I changed the engine design that I realised how many of these I needed. So I did calculate it before I went to the Lego store, and I realised I needed 600 of these just to do the engine mounts. So yeah, I was quite surprised when I realised how many of those I needed. In the next box here, we have got some more of the snot bricks. And again, with the snot bricks, I think it was a couple of hundred of those that I needed. I needed 150 of the 2x4 plates, so we've got 171 of those, so we've got a few extras, which I'm sure come in handy. Some 1x4 plates, as I was getting a little bit low on those. And then even more of the 1x6s. And what I was doing was I was stacking all of them up, and then I just could put them in the box at the very end, so I made sure that I got the maximum amount of stuff in here as possible. Then we've just got a load more of the 2x3 plates. Yeah, and then more snot bricks at the bottom of that one. And this box is all of the 1x6s, and then some 2x3 plates at the bottom there, and some 2x2 plates as well. And then finally in this box we have got a whole load more of the 2x6 bricks, as I needed. I think it was 100 odd of these, and then the rest of it is the 3x2 plates there. So yeah, very satisfying getting all of that. Took a long time of stacking there, but yeah, had nothing better to do on the day. Now from Grafton Street, because we spent €40, we got another poly bag. And again, this is something that I was unaware of how many I actually needed, was the plate here. And I think it worked out that I was going to need, I think it's about 800 to 1,000 of these for the engines, which is really hard to get my head around that I'm going to need that many, but I'm pretty sure that I have got that correct. So yeah, we've got loads of those, and then the rest of it was white tiles, and I also needed some more plates. So to maximize the space and make it easier for stacking, I've just tiled over every plate, and then it crams as many in there as possible, as you can see. So that's all that's in that box. And then the final box is very similar. We have got a whole load more of the 2x4s, and then I filled up the gaps with just the loose white tiles. But also they had on there these round plates. Now I wasn't sure if they were going to come in handy or not for the engine section, but I have picked up 22 of these, as I thought it might be good for helping with the actual structural side of the grey part that goes on the end. So I thought I'd better get them. I'd sooner have them left over in my collection than miss the opportunity or need them when I'm trying to prototype that last part of the engine. But again, the customer service was absolutely fantastic. So a massive thank you to Ryan in the Blanchardstown Lego store for all your help and assistance there, and also massive thank you to Layla in the Grafton Street Lego store, because she kept going out the back to get different parts from the menu that I was after. So thank you so much, guys, for fantastic service as always. The plan for today is to have a bit of a tidy up of this section here. That's the aftermath of making the last engine. It was gone to before I got out of the Lego room the night before last. And then yesterday, obviously, I was in Dublin all day. So I'm going to get that all tidied up, and then we'll get all of the pieces ready for making the remaining 10 engines. It'd be nice to be working on 1 or 2 engines a day, so it doesn't seem as repetitive doing all of them. But yeah, that's the plan at the moment. Then what I want to do is have a look at the engine here. I want to see if I can save any of the curved slopes, basically. So if I can replace these with flat tiles and it doesn't look out of place, then I would like to do so, because if I can sort of like replace those 2 rows with flat tiles, it's going to save me about €140 on the 11 engines in total. So that would be a good thing, but I've got to make sure that it looks right. What I would also like to do in this update is work on getting the wiring all put in place that I've just mentioned inside of these, if I can do so. Now is the perfect time to do it, as I do want to start doing the greebling on here very, very soon. So at least if I know that it's all in place, then that'll be that part sorted as well. And then if we've still got time, then we'll be having a look at starting the prototyping of the silver bit that goes on, or the grey bit that goes on the end of the engine. So without further ado, let's stop talking, let's get tidying, and then let's get building. And I think we've had some success on the prototyping. So here we have the engine, and I've replaced the tiles, or the curved slopes on this side, with a flat tile, and it is ugly. It just, although you're not seeing a great deal of it, I just don't like it, and I don't think it's worth saving the money just for that look. It's a real cop-out, and yeah, don't like it. If we go around this side, however, that's a lot better. And what I've done is I've used the 2x2 curved slopes and a tile, but you still got the smoothness there. So even when you're stood back here, you can still see a nice curvature to that. It's nice and tidy, nice and tight into everything. So I think that is the way that I'm going to go about it. Yes, there are a few more pieces used this way as opposed to just using the curved slope. However, I do think it's worthwhile doing it. These slopes here, they cost 14 cents each, whereas these ones are 25 cents each. So it's only 11 cents per tile that I'm saving, these are readily available on the pick a brick wall, and the amount I'm going to need is I picked them all up yesterday, so that's not a problem. But yeah, we're talking, I'm probably saving 36 curved slopes less I would have to purchase per engine. So 396, let's round up, say 400 curved slopes less that I need for that. A saving of 11 cents per curve. We're talking 40 euros cheaper by going for this style as opposed to using this part here. And I think that's well worthwhile doing that to save that. So when I order in all of the curved slopes for this, I will order these ones in for that section on all the engines. Now that we're happy that we've got the prototyping sorted out for the cylinder part of the engine, I can calculate how many curved slopes I need to purchase in and get those ordered as quickly as possible. What I'm going to be turning my attention to now is this part of the build. So I'm going to move those 3 sections as far down that end as I can, rotate this around by 90 degrees and start working on the electrics in there. I want to get all the wires put in there as best I can. I think with the middle 3 engines, I'm going to have the wire coming through the top of the engine and then connecting somewhere up on those points just there. The bottom engines, again, I've got to work out how I'm going to bring the wires up. It could be a case of, again, bringing up through the greebling. So I'll cross that bridge a little bit later. At the moment, I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. There are numerous ways of getting around certain parts of this. But what I also want to do is have a look at these 2 center engines at the top here and just see what happens when I use the 4x2 wedge plates on here, just to see if it does make much of a difference to the angle. Will it work and get it down? If I can get these 2 engines down so that they're all level on there and the same on the bottom ones and keep it looking more accurate on the top of the build there, then I would certainly like to do so. Although it's not sticking with the blueprints I was originally saying I'm going to use the whole way through, I want it to look as accurate as possible. So yeah, let's rotate the ship round and see what we can come up with. And this has been some successful prototyping with this new panel here for the engine mounts. So when we put it in here, this will now mean that the top is the same height as the one to the right and on the other end just there. The front is about a brick higher than this one currently is, so it's quite a bit higher than these. So that's what I was after with this, and we're now going to have the different angle of the slope there, but keeping all of the engines nice and straight, as you see in Star Wars: A New Hope and in Rogue One. So I'm really glad that somebody pointed this out to me in the comments last update. Now is the perfect time to be making amendments where I'm going to be stripping off a few of the details here to get the wires in, so I'll be able to get that all sorted all at the same time. And there we have the top engine mounts all amended, and much happier with the looks of these. Just looking at it now, I can just see where the errors were, and I'm so grateful for somebody pointing out the fact that they were wrong. And when I looked at the source material again, I realised that, yeah, the blueprints that I'm going by, although they show them as being higher, that's not correct. And this is how it should be. Yeah, happy to have it looking like this now. Now we've got the electronics there all in place. All this, the connector boards are ready for the power to come through to the top 4 engines and the middle 3. So what we'll do is we'll just have a connector cable coming from here through the top of the engine, and that will be the same for from there, and then on the top it'll be the same on those 4 engines. And off of this connector board here, we've got the USB cable there, so the plug's actually inside here, so that's where we store the battery box for the top 7 engine. But yeah, I'm so pleased that we've decided to make the amendment to the top, and I will get around to doing the bottom eventually, but it just won't be in this update. But what I want to do now is turn my attention back to the engines and start prototyping the grey part that goes on the very back. So we've come across these curved slopes here, and these are about the right size for helping me to keep the engine shape circular with the panels on the end. So I'm going to use put some plates and push them up against this, and then that will stop them from losing the shape, if that makes sense. It's now just a case of working out how I go about attaching them all on there. Ball joints would probably be the easiest way of doing it, but yeah, we'll experiment with that, and then I just need to work out how I'm going to do the centre bit where we have the lights and the glowing part. And here we had our first attempt at the cylinder part for the back of the engine, and I was hoping it was going to work out fine. If we'll put some tiles over this, and it's going to be spot on. We're going to have the hole in the back that we need for putting the actual flame part in and other details we want to add to that part of the engine. However, once I put tiles all the way around, 2 plates too thick. So it's back to the drawing board, and we'll have a fresh look at this in the morning and see if we can come up with another solution. And here is our latest prototype for the engine. Now, the negative is it's exactly the same width as that one. So if I tile over these 4x plates, I'm going to be 2 plates too wide. Now, the advantage with this is all of these parts were on the Pick a Brick wall, were available at the Lego store last time I was there. So that is good. That helps to keep the cost down on these engines. When you're making 11 of them, and there's 16 sections on each engine here, there's a lot of pieces that are going into the build. So the more I can get from the Lego store, the better. But as with the rest of the build, it has to look right. I'm not just going to do it the cheapest option and it look bad. So I need to work out exactly how I'm going to go about the finishing look on here. Now, at the moment, I could replace these 4x tiles using 2x tiles, so 2x4s or 2x6s, and put them along there. But as I mentioned, the amount I'm going to need is going to be a lot. I have got an order on the way from a bricklayer, but I've no idea when it's going to arrive. I did order some dark bluish grey tiles in that order, but I can't remember what size. So I'm going to need to chase the order up, but also check to see what was in that order. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to carry on working on this here. I'm going to make this section a lot bigger. So I'm going to make another one of these rings here, connect it all together, and then we'll carry on working on it and see what we can come up with. And hopefully it's going to look how we want it to. And here we have the engine prototype, and I'm really happy with how this is coming along. I've tiled this section just to give you an idea of what the effect will be all the way around the engine, but it's scary how many pieces are in this engine already. So I've just got to hope that I can get the majority of the parts off of the pick a brick wall. I need to check the size of the engine part on the end here. I can easily amend it. Inside here we've got the ball joint piece, then a plate connecting it to the back ring. So we've got one ring here and then another ring here, and there's the ball joints again. So I can just change the gap in between the two ball joints to get the right length. I want this bit from the edge here to these bricks here to go back a fair bit more. So I'm going to shrink it by at least 2 studs. So this is a gap of 4 on there. The order that I've got coming in from the brick club I'm with, I've got a feeling it's 4 long cheese wedges, and I think they're in dark bluish grey. I really am hoping they are. If they're in light bluish grey, then I will be building these engine cylinders in light bluish grey as opposed to dark bluish grey. So yeah, we'll just see what arrives. But yeah, really happy to have had this all sorted, and size wise it's absolutely perfect now. With the connection point, what I'm going to do when I start building my next one of these engines up, I'm going to put a Technic hole dead center of here, and then that will connect through to this axle point just here, and that's how we will connect it all together. Now with these engines, they are going to be probably one of the last things that are finished on the build, because I need to get all the parts in for doing the actual skin of it, the hull of it. And also I need to get the lights in as well. So yeah, I've got to work out how I'm going to do the flame effect in here. Again, it's one of those things that I want to try and make it look as good as possible, but there's not as many trans pieces that are easily available to me. So yeah, I'm just going to have to see what we can come up with on that. When you're doing everything 11 times like we are on the engines, it is quite daunting how many parts you need to get in for it. Anyway, that's the prototyping done for this update. It's been really satisfying getting this section all worked out, and I can now start calculating how many pieces I need to order in. I'm going to have a good search through my piece collection and see what we've got available, and then fingers crossed we'll be able to get a lot of this all sorted with what we've got in our collection, and then work out what we have to order. Anyway, that's all we have time for. Hope you've enjoyed the update. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if you know anybody else you think would be interested in building the Tantive IV in Lego, if you could share the channel with them, it'd be much appreciated. If you're watching on your mobile, please hit that hype button because it helps others to find the channel. Anyway, thanks for dropping by. Till next time, bye for now.